Hello there, everybody, and welcome back to the From a Certain Point of View podcast. I am Josh, and I am here to talk about the Batman. And boy, am I excited to talk about this movie. But before we get into the Batman, I just want to talk to you guys about my experience with Batman in my life. You know, Batman is my favorite superhero of all time. Christian Bale is my favorite Batman and Bruce Wayne up to this point. I really enjoyed the Christopher Nolan films, and that's what really got me into Batman, the character, so much. And just made me fall in love with the character and everything. And I love the grounded take that he had in those films. And the Batman is also very grounded too, but in a much darker, more gritty way, which I was looking for. Um, just to talk about our cinematic. Oh, and I guess I should mention that I love Batman so much that I even shaved my face, so if I wore the cape and cowl, I would fit in the role. Actually, it was an unfortunate shaving accident, but that's neither here nor there. Let's talk about the movie, and I want to talk about our cinematic experience. Me and Adam and my wife and a couple other friends of ours, we went and saw this at our local Cinemark on the XD screen, and they had a special XD screening last night, which would have been Wednesday night. And one of the exclusive things we got was this set of pins, which is pretty cool. We have the Batman logo on there and some Riddler stuff, and it was nice to get these pins. I said I would have preferred maybe a poster or something like that, but the pins were cool too. So I enjoyed that, and it was on the XD screen, which is the biggest and best screen they have in the Cinemark theater that we go to, and it was pretty much sold out. It was definitely packed. When we got in, there was actually a countdown, counting down to the show time. There weren't previews because normally we have to sit through like 25, 30 minutes of previews, so we didn't have to do that. It was just a countdown straight to an introduction by the cast of the Batman and then the film. And just to talk about my overall thoughts on this film, I thought it was amazing. I mean, I was blown away. In the first 10 minutes of this film, I was like, wow, this might be my favorite film of all time. Might be my favorite Batman film of all time. But I was just blown away by the atmosphere, the world that was created, this Gotham that feels like a very dangerous place to be. This very dark, very gritty Batman Gotham, universe. So I thought it was great, and this is the Batman I've kind of been wanting to see for a long time. And also just the way that the villains were brought to life. I think overall um, the cast and the acting were terrific, just top notch acting. And I'm going to talk about those individual performances and characters in a little bit. I thought that there was some good action throughout this film. It's kind of spread out throughout the film, and there's kind of a bigger action sequence at the end, which it was probably to be expected. I thought the cinematography and the shots were just beautiful in this film, and like I mentioned, very it's a darker film, so there's that. But I thought it was just a very well done film, very thought out storyline. Definitely a more detective type Batman that we see here, like a film noir, type of situation. And it was cool seeing Batman in detective mode for a good part of this film. And I just there if I had one complaint about the Batman, it would be that its runtime is just a little bit too long. Clocking in at near 3 hours. I feel like there could have been a little fat that was maybe trimmed here and there. But as I was watching it, I was thinking, like, what would I even cut out of this? And I'm not sure, because it all feels pretty essential to the story that they're telling. And so this is going to be a non-spoiler review. There might be some minor things here and there. If you don't want to know anything about this film, then you might want to stop here. But I will say that my score of this film is a 9.5 out of 10. I think it's nearly perfect, but maybe just a little bit long with some places where the film drags a little bit. The last time I checked Rotten Tomatoes, I think the critics had it at 84% fresh, and the audience score was around 96. So, the audience is really digging this film, and the critics as well. So it's always nice to get both of those things to happen if you care about that sort of thing. Um, but I do want to get into some of these performances, and starting with Batman himself, it's Robert Pattinson. And, a lot of people question this casting decision and whether he would do a good job in the role or not. And I will tell you, he is probably my favorite Batman now at this point. I still prefer Christian Bale as Bruce Wayne. I think he really pulled off that nonchalant playboy type characterization really well. But I think this Bruce Wayne has a lot of growing that he can still do. I mean, we do kind of get kind of in, my wife said, an emo Bruce Wayne. A lot of people have said that, but this is a character that's very damaged by the loss of his parents, and you see that play out throughout the film. And the decisions that he makes, I think, in large part are based off of that. And in the beginning of this film, he's calling himself Vengeance. He's out to get revenge on Gotham and the criminals of Gotham, and maybe the people that were responsible for his parents' death. And this is also very much a film about police corruption, even corruption with the attorneys and other, important officials. So we see a lot of that corruption play out. But one character that's not corrupt is Jim Gordon, played by Jeffrey Wright, who I love. I love him in this role, and I really love the duo of Batman and Jim Gordon, and their relationship, and their kind of co-detectives in this whole story, and this thing that the Riddler has mapped out in his master plan, and they're trying to figure it out and put the pieces together. I love their relationship. I think it was very well done. So I was a big fan of that dynamic in the film. And I also really enjoyed the Penguin. And as you can see, Colin Farrell as the Penguin, he's almost unrecognizable, and maybe completely unrecognizable in this role, but he really brings it to life. And I've always been looking, and I was hoping we get a Penguin in the Christopher Nolan films that actually was like a crime boss type of Penguin, like we get here. And he's not, you know not quite at that level yet, but this is the type of Penguin I was looking for. And I think Colin Farrell is having a lot of fun in this role. So he had some funny moments, which this film kind of needed. There were some, humorous moments. His character, he's just having a good time in this role. So I'm really looking forward to the HBO Max spinoff as well. And speaking of villains, I want to talk about Paul Dano and the Riddler. And this is a far cry from the Jim Carrey Riddler that we saw in Batman Forever. Um, at least I think that was the movie. And this Riddler, is scary, both when he's in his costume and when he's not. So he's a really scary guy. And the scene, the film opens with a very chilling scene. Um, and, one that he's involved in. And, just seeing him at work was a lot of fun to watch. So he was a very, it was definitely had that psychological thriller aspect, in large part because of this character. So I also want to talk about Selena Kyle, played by Zoe Kravitz, and I couldn't take my eyes off of her in this movie for more reasons than one, but I think she is great in this role. This is also probably my favorite on live action Catwoman, Selena Kyle. I think she really captures that role, and and her chemistry with Robert Pattinson's Batman is just jumping off of the screen. I mean, it's palpable. They had great chemistry, um, and it was a lot of fun watching those two. And she's a very capable fighter. Very obviously independent, can handle herself, and that was a lot of fun to watch. A really, strong female character. But to get into the score of the Batman by Michael Giacchino, I thought this was fantastic. I had been listening to the score up to going into the to watch the movie, and it's just this very haunting, very moody score that really captures the feel of this movie and captures this Gotham. Um, and so I love the score, and I really love the new Batman theme, and it really, that theme is very prevalent. Each time we see Batman come onto the screen. So, another thing I really loved about this film was the score. So I didn't want to forget to mention that. But talking a little bit about the story again, this is kind of a murder mystery type situation. And Batman's very much in detective mode, and there's this serial killer that's on the loose, and they're trying to put all these things together and find the clues that the Riddler is leaving behind specifically for the Batman. And that was just a lot of fun to see that. And I thought just the ability to have these characters, these villains, feel so real and so like really life threatening. There was a lot of stakes. The stakes were pretty high in this film, and so I thought that was just very well done. um the storyline is great. And speaking of the story and the plot, I've heard comparisons made to films like the Zodiac and Seven, and those were a couple of my favorite films when they came out, Seven in particular, and just the way that mystery unraveled itself. I really enjoyed that, and I think those comparisons are, this is basically the movie. It's similar to Seven, but with Batman as the main character, and Batman as the detective along with Jim Gordon. So I really enjoyed that aspect of the film too. And I got to say, even though this is a long film, I did not recline my reclining seat at all. I was pretty much, and there were a lot of moments where I was, pumping my fist, or I was kind of leaning in. I was on the edge of my seat, literally. And I was very much engaged in this film. And while it does drag in parts, there's lots of action in between that makes up for that. And one of the highlights of the film for me, if you've watched the trailers, is the scene with the Batmobile and just the sounds that come from this thing. You could feel the engine of this Batmobile, and the chase scene involved with the Penguin there was really well done, really really awesome. That's probably my favorite action scene in the film. Um, but again, this is a Bruce Wayne that's damaged. This is a Batman that's in year two, and and I really enjoyed the narration in this film by Batman, and that he would say like what the date was, because I read the year one comic before seeing this, and it really reminded me of that. It was really reminiscent, which was really cool. And I've heard it pulls from other comics too, like the Long Halloween, which I need to check out. Um, I think that's the name of it. I'm not very familiar with the comics, to be honest, but I want to go back and check out some of those and see how this movie ties those things in. And so, yeah, I was very satisfied by this film. I don't want to say anything else that might spoil anything, but I can't wait to go back and watch it again. And I would highly recommend seeing this movie in the theater. Again, I'd give it a 9.5 out of 10. And that is my review of the Batman. And I hope you guys have enjoyed this, and I hope you enjoy the film as well. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments section, and be sure to stay tuned to From a Certain Point of View. This weekend, we'll be recording our weekly episode where we will dive into spoilers for the Batman. So stay tuned for that, and I will see you then. Everything I said today was true from a certain point of view.